Hello everybody, my name is Irfan Khan. I'm the president of SAP's Platform and Technologies organization. It's a real privilege today to be able to share with you some insights around how you can activate your data and become much more capable of making that data become a superpower for you. So with no further ado, let's jump straight into this. Now, we began the year, and it seems like almost a distant memory now, with such optimism. We began 2020 with an opportunity to look at this as a new decade of innovation and a clear opportunity for taking advantage of all the different technologies and the different capabilities that will be available to us. So let me first start off by maybe just taking a quick recap. The opportunity for us to use some of these more significant technology innovations. Perhaps we take a look at 5G networks, for example. The opportunity is there because of the pervasiveness of connectivity that would give us significant levels of bandwidth to now start utilizing. Of course, 5G networks now been even more endorsed by Apple recently introducing the iPhone 12 has given us even greater opportunities now where 5G networks are theoretically giving us 100x performance improvement over traditional 4G networks. So, realistically, right, when we take a look at the foundation of technology now and wanted to have connectivity, there is no limitation there. And of course, that's how the year started. Now we take a look at other things like, predictive maintenance and the ability for the hyperscalers to start building and embedding a lot more predictive type of capabilities. If you've got a modern appliance, you bought a modern appliance recently, you're probably taking advantage of that appliance, probably having a lot more predictive maintenance actually inbuilt within it. If you take them down, look at the way that will evolve over time, it means that you could have more of an autonomous capability. So it could actually preempt any issues, maybe call out the service technician as and when that issue is likely to happen so that you don't incur any downtime or disruption. And then we take a look at the way that businesses have been evolving, right? We've had a high degree of productivity leading up to where we are today. And that comes from actually having a very significant grasp of the way that we run our businesses. And this concept of revenue operations, or RevOps, was also being discussed at the beginning of the year. And what is RevOps? Well, it gives us an ability to actually have everything aligned from sales all the way through to finance. And if there are any revenue leakages that could be detected, you could have process insights to being able to have much more augmentation around your business and make sure that you do not have any revenue leakages that may come about. So these were all the very significant aspirations that we began the beginning of the year with. But what transpired, nobody could have prepared themselves for. What transpired, of course, was a pandemic. And early in January and February, we began, of course, with China. And China in itself became, the center of all news. And every other country was just braced to see and determine what level of impact it would be, would make to their individual environments. And what we've now gone, of course, through is every single aspect of our lives, whether that's, of course, the way that we live, the way that we shop, the way that we seek medical attention and care, the way that we conduct our businesses. Every single aspect of our lives has been touched by this pandemic. And of course, if we take a look at some businesses were actually more equipped to being able to deal with the pandemic. They were actually much more resilient because perhaps they had a data strategy. Perhaps they'd already put in place a lot of those fundamentals that were needed to become much more resilient. We talk to many customers, and I have many engagements with a lot of those customers. And what's evident to me is even prior to the pandemic, the capabilities, the restraints or the constraints essentially on technology and on infrastructure were becoming much, much more evident. So therefore, there was a need for us to actually start evolving and rapidly start to evolve independent of whatever the pandemic has done to our environments. So if we look at this backdrop, the one thing that we've got to try and understand is how do we now take the foundation of all of the changes that are going on around us, and how do we essentially thrive in this new norm that we're living in? And there's a trinity, right, of three emotions that come to mind. We talk about fear, courage, and freedom. Now, this trinity of emotions, right, could be harnessed, and they could actually give us a capability to use data to become a superpower. But what is the fear association right now? Well, the fear is the fear of the unknown. We talk about the foundations of technology being there to serve us. But who's going to make those investments under the circumstances? How can we take advantage of existing investments that have been made? And who's going to be bold and be courageous? But equally so, courageous is, of course, very situational. I have deep empathy for every single person that's listening to this, and of course, every one of our customers, because they've gone through different changes, right? I mean, everybody's, of course, is now locked down and working from home to some extent. And of course, those lockdown restrictions are creating very, very different working scenarios and very, very different environments. So everybody's being courageous. Every single one of the developers, every single one of the operational team members, every one of the business users is being courageous. But the freedom and the flexibility that we can derive if we truly harness the value of data, could be an incredible asset to take us and propel us to the next level. So now, in terms of SAP's journey, the one thing that we recognize is, independent of wherever we were before the pandemic, our aspirations, our vision was for every single customer to become an intelligent enterprise. In order to become an intelligent enterprise, it was our designation that you need to have a very substantial and expansive technology foundation. We call this the business technology platform. Now, the business technology platform really becomes the incremental investment in technology that most of you are making today, but equally so, it gives you the ability to start pivoting to become those real-time businesses, to become much more capable of being able to take advantage of all the different value adds that you have, whether that's different commercial models, whether that's driving much more data monetization and different strategies around data that you may want to have as well. And independent of the application hierarchy, whether that's classical solutions around SAP applications, or we now cluster into an intelligent suite of applications, whether it's the industry cloud that will give you much more of an industry vertical flavor based upon those same application environments that you've been running in those same customer landscapes. And then we talk about the experience aspect. We want every single customer to have a first-class experience around all aspects of their applications. So let me just double click here and get into the business technology platform foundations. There essentially is, this is an aggregate of technology. The aggregation of data and data management, analytics, the platform capabilities to be able to extend and integrate to SAP and non-SAP environments, and then equally so, the intelligent technologies that will be able to allow you to achieve high degrees of machine learning and artificial intelligence capabilities across all of the different asset pools that you have. Now, if we take a look at the foundation that we're looking to build out in the BTP, the business technology platform, if we look at the platform aspects to start with, we expect every single customer out there to almost assume now that SAP is well integrated. Now, that may well not have been the case. Of course, SAP is on a journey over the last 10 years where we've done significant numbers of acquisitions. Everything from Qualtrics for our most recent acquisition for experience management. You know, we have travel expense with Concur, human capital management with SuccessFactors, et cetera, et cetera. And each and every one of these assets and these very significant best of breed applications that was brought to SAP has resulted in SAP becoming exceedingly heterogeneous. So we need to bring back all of these capabilities into a single intelligent suite again. And this is why the foundation of the business technology platform and having a very robust integration and extension capability is a must-have now. You know, making investments in a single domain model. So all of these different assets that I just described can utilize exactly the same data set. Having a foundation in a service mesh where you could have seamless integration, a single workflow through kernel services that allow you to be able to have workflow, everything from single sign-on, authentication, everything should be able to flow through in a very seamless fashion. And that's effectively giving you the process resilience and process excellence that you expect to have from SAP. But let's talk about the data excellence part of it now as well. Having a very substantial foundation in data means that you need to have innovation scope. You need to have the assets that allow you to be able to have embedded analytics, but also at the same time, analytics that you can have in a broad scope, allowing every single user to look across all the different data sets that may be out there and have the same level of sophistication and excellence across all different environments that you may want to serve in your IT landscapes. So as we look to extend the analytic foundations and the data foundations, we talk about this data formula. So what is the data formula? Well, at first and foremost, it gives you an ability to evaluate exactly how well suited your data set is, or how well suited your environment is to being able to fully maximize on all the data resources that are available to you. And I'll give you three vectors of this formula right now. So firstly, we start off with the volume. What is the volume of data? Well, firstly, recognizing the data is now hugely distributed. In fact, it's highly distributed and highly fragmented in many, many different environments. We talk about data in different planes. We talk about data perhaps being in the on-prem world, actually having a very substantial level of structure. Sometimes that data could be unstructured. So therefore, the quality of the data, independent of where it may reside, and because the data is going to become more heterogeneous, you'd expect to have a certain level of assurity and securitization and ensuring that the data is cleansed so that every single interaction, every business interaction that you have, you can safeguard the quality of that data. And then we talk about the usage scenarios. The usage scenarios right now go well beyond the usages of what we used to have in historical environments. We're now talking about the ability for data to be accessed at the edge, the ability for data to, of course, be consumed by anybody, whether that's going to be a citizen developer, whether that's going to be a citizen data scientist, a power user, or even, for example, a user that basically wants to have just the ability to get their job done with little or no interaction with that data, meaning that it should just be outcome based. So with all these requirements, if we can get all of these different facets under control, this data value equation will give us value. And that's what we strive for. That's how you become capable of making data and harnessing data to become that superpower for you. Now, underpinning all of these different facets and these different vectors, we have a very substantial innovation pool of different solutions and existing solutions that will lend themselves for you to be able to take advantage of this. One of the substantial innovations that we've been working on is evolving HANA. Now, HANA in itself needs no introduction, but of course it's been in the market for over a decade. And where we have been taking HANA from a design perspective is to take HANA to become more cloud native. We talk about HANA now becoming HANA Cloud. Now, just to spend a few minutes here and to give you a quick summary of the native capabilities of HANA. Many of you, if you've been accessing HANA in the cloud environments, you would have been using HANA essentially to take advantage of HANA's ability to be able to take large amounts of data, compress that data, store it in an in-memory foundation, and then be able to do different types of workload processing, whether that's graph, geospatial, of course, analytical processing and transaction processing. So these are a substantial number of compute capabilities that we have. And with the native evolution of HANA Cloud, we take that compute foundation and we've essentially separated it out now from the storage foundations. The original design blueprint of HANA was to deal with HANA as a single autonomous store, being able to deal with all classes of data with one copy of that data, which still, of course, is a situation, but not having to physically move data around, store the data in a one single unified appliance inside of HANA. Now, as the world has evolved, and of course, as we see the vast amounts of data that are being processed, the wide data, the big data effectively, we now have to have an evolutionary cycle for HANA. This is exactly why we take HANA to cloud native and some of the design considerations that we took on board. Firstly, many of our customers are now taking, of course, a journey with the infrastructure providers, hyperscalers. You know, whether that's Microsoft, Amazon, or Google, you are probably already moving your data sets and taking them into these mass storage lakes provided by those hyperscalers. So perhaps you're using Azure Data Lake, perhaps you're using S3 from Amazon, or maybe even BigQuery from Google. You've already started moving data, large amounts of your data from your on-premise world and starting to populate these mass storage lakes. So this is exactly why when you take HANA Cloud now and you're able to have that compute on all those different hyperscaler environments, and that foundation, of course, of all those different sophisticated compute engines gives you an immediate level of value. Now, the distinction that we've now reached, of course, and the differentiation that we have with HANA is we recognize that the world is, of course, highly distributed. With the best will in the world and with the best motivation in the world, you're not going to get all your data into one location. You're not going to be able to collect all of your data and physically store it inside of one very gigantuan data lake. It's just not going to be the case. So we recognize that the notion of having a gateway accessible to all different types of data and having a single gateway approach using HANA Cloud will give you tremendous value and tremendous capabilities. So this is now where we put the validation in terms of virtualization. Virtualization allows us to have a high degree of federation and distributed query processing, distributed data management. And equally so, we look at the persistence model that you may be using. You may want to have that data residing on premise. You may want to have that data residing in one of these hyperscaler environments. But equally so, you may want to have a very much a kind of all-in-one solution set. And SAP will also give you that with our own native cloud data lake, which is built upon Sybase IQ technology, which is a very robust, significant foundation in technology in its own right, but that gives us the ability to actually age and page data out, have a data tiering strategy, which I'll come on to in a moment, allowing you to have a natural evolutionary cycle for managing all types of data. And then we look at the different classes of applications. This in itself will serve the needs of not just the new solutions like SAP Analytics Cloud, Data Warehousing Cloud, and of course Data Intelligence, but all new applications, SAP and third-party applications, will be able to take advantage of HANA Cloud as well. You can consider HANA Cloud to really be the nucleus of our business technology platform. And it will give you the ability to look at data across a multitude of different environments. And this in itself, we're very excited by, is really paving the way for the next decade of innovation around HANA as well. Now, to give one specific example of a customer success that I've been really following for quite some time now is a National Hockey League in the United States. Now, the NHL has been a long-standing SAP customer. They started off with fan insights. They were able to take advantage of HANA's ability to store large amounts of data and being able to do nesting and iteration along those data using views and being able to do high levels of manipulation across views and actually having dynamic data sets brought in very quickly and then being able to look and do drill downs across that data. And the NHL has actually been building upon this and now leveraging HANA Cloud and the Data Warehousing Cloud. What the NHL is able to do, number one, it has a very significant tiering strategy, just as I described, separation of that compute and store. So as they start tracking every single player, every single game, every single physical movement of that puck on the ice surface, they can actually capture every single data point, store it inside of HANA, and then allow their fan experience to be even more enriched, having a new class of application that they can generate so that they can actually have even greater engagement with their customers. So the NHL has really taken this journey, and where you hear Eric Snyder now talking about SAP HANA Cloud completely is able to keep up with the challenge, handling all these different data sets, and having a powerful tiering model is actually giving a real world example where a large amount of data is now being able to be stored in a very significant compute foundation, but also taking advantage of the economies of scale that you get from the hyperscaler environments as well. So we couldn't be more proud of our partnership with the NHL, and we're really looking forward to the next level of innovation that the NHL will be driving as well. So let me talk a little bit more about the latest innovations. I touched on a couple of them. We talked about the HANA Cloud. I talked about some instances around Sybase, right, where we leverage IQ now as a foundation, as a cloud native data lake that is now linked as a tiering strategy to HANA Cloud. We've had also some great advancement now with ASE as well. So for all of you Sybase customers out there, they may have been wondering in terms of how do you take a cloud native journey with all of your Sybase significant custom developed applications, particularly in financial services, where we know the largest banks in the world are still using ASE for those very significant mission critical business transactional applications, with the ASE foundation now becoming also a constituent part of HANA Cloud. That will give you the ability to be able to lift and shift those existing applications, being able to do so in a managed way, so that will actually be able to give you all the reuse of all of the significant investment that you put into those existing apps. So all the triggers, the business logic, the stored procedures, everything that you have, fundamentally just lifting it, shifting it, bringing it into the HANA Cloud environment, and then through the containerization support that we now offer through HANA Cloud, you'll be able to have not just the ASE foundation hosted as a managed service, but you also take advantage of all of the other HANA Cloud capabilities as well. So bringing in, for example, IQ into the IQ data lake. So linking between the two worlds has never been easier. Also, the ability to start using some of the SAP Analytics Cloud capabilities to truly giving you even greater level of predictive and planning capabilities on those existing applications as well. So we couldn't be happier and couldn't be more excited for the evolution of the Sybase install base. Then we take a look at the Data Warehousing Cloud and the notion of this flow design and flow builder. Well, what does this give you? It gives you the ability to start building very much agile data flows. Think about these as being pipelines of data processing. You can have the ability to look at across all the different data heterogeneous data sets that may be out there. And the flow builder will be able to give you much more agility so that you can start using all the extract, transform, load, transformational capabilities in that single pipeline of data processing and have the ability to actually start creating and almost releasing and deploying these solutions so much easier into the space. So therefore, Data Warehouse Cloud will give you that added advantage into the space as well. And then finally, we look at the Analytics Cloud with the integration now we have through SAC, where you can take a look at data now, not just in the cloud native world, but also tying it back through these live views and live connects that we have directly to S4 content on-premise as well. Having a semantic layer, building out the ability through HANA Cloud now, through SAC, to truly have that single gateway across all the different data sets that you have. So this is a real significant advancement, and this in itself will give you all much more substantial value. Now, in order for you to learn more, what I'll encourage you to do is, number one, take a look at all of these trials that are available to you. So you could take, for example, roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty with HANA Cloud, Data Warehousing Cloud, SAC, data insight, etc. This will give you the ability to really start experimenting, just like the NHL, where you can see the tremendous value that you'll be able to get from these advancements. And then there is a whole host of different sessions that are available to you as well. So the experience of decision making, you've got decisions without doubt, creating your own data warehousing journey, sessions that have been really designed to build upon what I've been describing you today, is to make every single one of you become capable of making data become that superpower for you. There's also, of course, the community sites that are out there, and all these different resources I'd encourage you to take a look at. One other final thing I want to share with you is the ability to start using our Learning Hub. This in itself will give you an experience that is unsurpassed. Of course, you could spend days, 2 days, 3 days getting into a course and getting nitty gritty. But what you have is you have a huge community out there where the benefits are that you can interact with the community. You've got hundreds of experts that are able to give you very direct feedback in terms of the solution journey or the overall journey that you're taking around data. And equally so, having the ability to actually start really experimenting a lot more, deepen your skill set, have the ability to have much more value association for your organizations, and getting ramped up and getting through the change management and the reskilling of the tool set that you need to have very, very quickly as well. So today, I've been given the privilege to share with you some of the insights around data and becoming how you become superpowers around data, of course, as well, individually and collectively. So this has been a real opportunity to take advantage of all of SAP's innovations. I wish you the very best for this year and, of course, going into 2021 as well. I hope you're all safe and well, and I look to speak to you again soon. Thank you very much.
you.